Dear students, today we are starting the class 7th General Science unit number 4. Topic is sexual reproduction. In my previous topic, I had discussed the asexual reproduction in plants and animals. Today we are going to discuss the sexual reproduction. So remember that sexual reproduction is a type of reproduction in which two parents are involved. I mean, sexual reproduction is a type of reproduction in which the combination of male and female gametes takes place and new offsprings are produced. So before going into the detail of this, let me discuss in case of plants. If you go to the page 31 bottom and check the bottom, it has been mentioned that, for example, in plants, for example, this is a plant flower. The male reproductive part of plant is flower. Let me draw this. These structures are called anthers. These structures are called anthers. There is another structure. Let's say, let me draw it. Anthers, and there is another structure what we call ori. So this ori contain ovules. This ori contain ovules, and this anther contain small male gametes which are called pollen grains. Pollen grains. These are the male gametes. These are contained in a sac-like structure which is called anther. This stalk or stem is called filament. This is called filament. This is called stigma. This is called, the central part is called style. And this swollen part which contain the ovules is called ori. This is called ori. So if you move to the next page, we know that the male gametes are the pollen grain and female gametes are ovule. It's actually not the ovule, but there are egg cell or sex cells which are lying inside the ovules. These are the female gametes. So small pollen grains are the male gametes, and the ovules, actually the egg cell which lies inside these ovules is the this whole part is called, swollen part is called ori. Ori contain two ovules, and ovules have egg cell or sex cells inside it. So it must be clear to you. This is the female part, and these are the male parts. The male parts, the swollen part or head is called anther. It contains pollen grain. So now I am going to discuss in the next topic, which is the pollination. What is the pollination? So pollination is the process of transfer of male gamete, that is the pollen grain, to the stigma of the female part is called pollination. So the transfer of male gamete from anther to stigma of the flower is called pollination. Pollination is of two types. One is called self-pollination, other is called cross-pollination. If the pollen grain transfers from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or of the same plant, this is called self-pollination. And if the pollen grains transfers from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower, this is called cross pollination. So this is the pollination, which is the self and cross. Similarly, how pollination takes place? Pollination may takes place by two ways. One is by insects, the other is by through wind. Now let me discuss how the insect pollination takes place. How pollination takes place by through insects. You know, this is the male part, and this stalk is called filament, the swollen part is called anther. Anthers have pollen grain inside it. At the base, at the bottom of each anther, there are some glands, and these glands secrete a sweet liquid which is called nectar. This is the same thing, same liquid. The bees, flies, butterflies, dragonflies, various insects, they are attracted to the flower, and actually they suck this nectar. For example, bees suck it and goes to the bees hive and form honey. So actually this is a sweet liquid, and insects are attracted by a flower to suck this nectar. So when an insect comes here, for example, this is an insect, it has wings, it has legs. Okay, so when an insect sits here and tries to suck the nectar, the pollen grains gets stick to its legs or wings or other parts of the body. And when this insect, which may be a fly, butterfly or dragonfly, may be a bee or some other insect, when this insect goes to or it touches its leg or wing or any other part of the body which has the pollen grains attached with it, if it touches the stigma of the flower, of the same flower or of the other flower, so the pollen grain gets transferred to the female part. So in this way, this is called the insect pollination. Here the pollen grains are heavy, they are not carried away by the water, or wind, especially wind, so they cannot be carried out or blown away by the air or wind. So that's why insects are needed for their transfer. There is another type of pollination, what we call the wind pollination. In case of wind pollination, the pollen grains are very small, they are very light, they have very low mass, and they have wings. They can be blown away by wind. So as the winds turns on, or when the wind blows, the pollen grains blown into the air, and they are little and they are great in number. So one or more of the pollen grain reaches here and come to the ovary and reaches the egg cell and fertilize it. Okay, so this was something about the insect pollination and similarly the wind pollination. So there may be a question that differentiate between the insect pollination and wind pollination. Okay, so the next my next topic is the fertilization. So what is fertilization and how it takes place? I shall proceed, please. Actually, let me draw it again. Let me draw the ori only. For example, these are the petals. You know the flower has colored petals. It looks very awesome. And insects are actually attracted by these petals. They comes and sucks the nectar. Let's say this is the ori. It's a female part of the plant. This is called, the top is called stigma, the middle is called style, and this swollen part which contain ovules have egg cell. Okay, so this is called the whole this arrangement is used for fertilization. So what is the fertilization? Actually, when the pollen grain reaches here through pollination, when a pollen grain reaches here, for example, this is a pollen grain, it reaches here. This pollen grain, when it reaches at the top of the ori, it develops a tube which is called pollen tube. This pollen tube elongates and goes downward and ultimately reaches the ovule and goes to the egg cell. So through this pollen tube, this tube is called pollen tube. Through this pollen tube, the pollen grain comes, it descends down or comes down and ultimately reaches this egg cell. And so pollen grain and egg cell, for example, this is the pollen grain and this is the egg cell. These two combines to form zygote. This is called zygote. So this is the male gamete and this is the female gamete, combination of these two to form zygote. This process is called fertilization. So what is the fertilization? Fertilization is the combination of the male gamete and female gamete to form zygote. What is the zygote? Zygote may be the early form of a baby in case of animals, or it can be the earliest form or initial form of the, you can say, initial state of the seed, which is the product in case of plants. So this was something about the fertilization. And in plants, actually, when in animals, the male gamete is sperm and female gamete is egg cell, and these two combines to form zygote. But in plants, the actually the ovule is converted into seed, while the ori wall is converted into fruits. So after fertilization, this zygotes in case of plants forms ovule, and in later stages it also forms the seed and fruits. For example, if you take a mango, the outer coat and the part of the mango which we normally eat, that is formed by the ori wall, while the inside the hard core, which is the hard part of the mango, is formed by the, which contain the seed, it is formed by the ovule itself. So this was something about the fertilization, what is the fertilization and how it happens. So the next, the last topic of your book is seeds. You know, seeds are the product of fertilization. After fertilization, the combination of male and female gamete takes place, which ultimately forms seeds, and the outer part of the seed is the fruit, and sometimes they have very hard coat. Sometimes seeds are present in soil or anywhere, and they do not grow because unfavorable due to the unfavorable conditions. For example, when there is no enough light, there is no enough water, or favorable temperature is not there, then these seeds remain inert for a long time. These are in sleeping condition. This stage is called dormancy. Dormancy is mentioned in your book at the bottom side of the page 33. So if I move to the next page, that is the page 34 and 34 top, fruits is a topic. It's a very easy topic, you can check it. Fruits are actually I have discussed that after fertilization the all parts of the flower dries up. Okay, so when fertilization takes place, then these petals and sepal which are present, they dries up, they are the flower they are dropped, and the wall of the uri forms fruit, and the ovules forms seeds. So both seeds are formed by the ovules, and the wall of the uri form fruit. Some seeds also develops very hard coat. For example, in case of, you can say, apple have outer coat. Similarly, the mangoes have outer coat, and in nuts, for example, almonds, they have very tough coat. So the next topic is the discussion about the seeds and fruits and their dispersal. Dispersal means how the seeds and fruits, they move from one place to other. You may have seen here a dandelion is shown. Look at this. You may ever seen this. It's normally present in grass, or and they have very small seeds, and they may be easily blown away by water. They you can say they fly in water, they float in water, and hence through they can be easily blown by the water, air. So they moves from one place from one place to another place by air, because they are very light. They have some wings like structures through which they can easily blow, and they transfer from one place to other. So they also have some hairs, or you can say feathery hairs or wings, through which they can easily float in air. So in this way they move from one place to another. Some seeds, look at here, they have hooks. Okay, so these normally sticks to the bodies of the animals. For example, sheep, goat, which are in search of grass. So these seeds normally stick to their body. They may be stick to the clothes of the human being, or to the shoes, and hence they transfer from one area to another area. But they are heavy. They are not blown by the water, air. So they sticks to the bodies of the animals or human being, and hence they move from one place to other. Here some a pea pod is shown, that this is the coat which is formed by the uri wall, and inside it lies the pea seeds, which are actually the pea fruit. So dear students, this is the end of this chapter. Today I have discussed what is the sexual reproduction, then I went towards the pollination, what is self-pollination, cross-pollination, then I discussed the types of pollination, which was the insect pollination, while the other was the wind pollination. Then I moved towards the fertilization. What is the fertilization? What is the fertilization? Maybe you can say the combination of male and female gamete. In case of animals, the male gamete is sperm and female gamete is egg, and in case of plants, the male gamete is pollen grain and female gamete is the egg cell or sac cell, maybe which are present inside the ovules. Then we went towards the seeds and fruits and how they are dispersed. So, dear, I shall discuss these topics in class as well. But remember my video, watch my video, okay? And if you have some questions, you can ask me, and feel free while asking questions. I thank you all.